In the 2014-15 season, the Buffalo Sabres sold house, tanking in hopes of drafting the next face of the NHL in Connor McDavid. Fans actively rooted against their own team and encouraged losing to potentially guarantee a franchise-altering player. But like always, they fell short, getting pick number 2 instead of pick number 1, drafting Jack Eichel out of Boston College instead. Eichel was still extremely promising and was advertised as having a similar game-changing factor many scouts said was almost as good as McDavid's. So to the fans, Jack Eichel was going to be the centerpiece to a team in desperate need of a superstar, a player who was going to guide Buffalo back to relevancy. But instead, things didn't go as planned. The team remained awful, playing so bad to the point where they became completely unwatchable. Years of constant underachieving continued, and even though Eichel would be named the team captain and signed an 8-year deal to remain with the team, many believed that Eichel, like the fans, had to be getting fed up with the losing. And he was, as apparently he requested a trade after the Sabres missed the playoffs during the 2020 season. But the real drama didn't begin until the following season, when Jack Eichel infamously sustained the neck injury, which later evolved into an extremely controversial topic. Eichel wanted to get a surgery to repair his neck, but management told him he couldn't, most likely due to the extreme risks associated with the procedure. And this further angered Eichel and gave him an even better reason to leave. All throughout the summer, they tried to field out offers, but management took their time, all while delaying Eichel's potential surgery even more. Eichel in the media would state, quote,
"You know, right now for me, I think the most important thing is just trying to get healthy and figure out a way to be available to play hockey next year. Wherever that might be."
Which angered fans of Buffalo who felt betrayed that Eichel was so quick to give up on the team. But finally, earlier this season, a deal was made, sending Jack to Vegas for Peyton Krebs, Alex Tuch, and draft picks. Fans became immediately attached to Tuch, and when Eichel returned to Buffalo, they made sure to give him a very warm welcome.
The return of Jack Eichel in Buffalo is underway, eyeball to eyeball with Tage Thompson. Eichel wins the battle. He has the puck. And you see already, and here already, the boos are underway.
Yeah, but he should be booed early, and then they should cheer him in the video they're going to show at the first intermission.
Eichel got destroyed in his return and showed just why fans went from loving him to hating him.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy it's over. Just move on. That's about the loudest I've heard this place ever. Really, after it only took 7 years and me leaving for them to get into the game. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure there was mixed. It was a nice tribute, and there was plenty of people here that were supporting me, and there was plenty of people here that were booing me. So they must just be booing because they wish I was still here. I don't know. It is what it is. I mean, I'm not the first kid to deal with it, so just move on. And yeah, it was a tough game.
Fans felt that Eichel gave up on them, and his attitude displayed that. And since the trade, Eichel missed the playoffs yet again with Vegas, and Alex Tuch has become a fan favorite and a strong leader in Buffalo. And speaking of fan favorites, when the Bruins traded for Phil Esposito, Boston fans were ecstatic. One of the best trades in Bruins history saw them acquire Phil Esposito, Ken Hodge, and Fred Stanfield from Chicago for Jack Norris, Pitt Martin, and Gilles Moreau. What's hilarious is that at the time the trade was made, Chicago full-heartedly believed they wiped the floor with Boston. Instead, they got to watch as Esposito tore apart defenses for over a decade alongside his right-hand man, you guessed it, Ken Hodge. The dynamic duo was iconic and extremely dominant. Bruins fans loved Phil, yet never really accepted Ken Hodge, and it was mainly due to his playing style. Let me explain. You would think, considering that Hodge posted 2 105-point seasons, that he would be just as beloved as his partner Esposito, but Bees fans wanted Hodge to be an extremely physical, hard-checking bruiser, which he simply was not. They expected this due to his size and large frame, but he strived more offensively. It also didn't help that his skating seemed off at times, and despite his 100-plus point seasons, he lacked consistency as the statistics show, which in some cases even resulted in Hodge getting booed. Regardless of the criticism, he continued to work hard, but at one point, even management began getting on Ken, including head coach Don Cherry, and their feud eventually led to Hodge's trade out of Boston in 1976. For someone who produced as much as Ken Hodge, I was very shocked to find just how hated he sometimes was.
We're counting down the face-off on Fox Sports Ohio. Jeff Carter was the biggest acquisition of the offseason for the Columbus Blue Jackets. The former Flyers center spent 6 seasons in Philadelphia and averaged 27 assists and over 30 goals every year. The Blue Jackets have been searching for a frontline center to team with Captain Rick Nash and believe they've found their man in former All-Star Jeff Carter.
This is how valuable Blue Jackets fans believed centerman Jeff Carter truly was to the franchise, because at the time, they never had a legitimate #1 center to pair up with their superstar, Rick Nash. Carter was expected to produce and play hard, but what ended up happening instead causes Jackets fans to despise him to this day. Columbus paid a lot to snag Carter from Philadelphia, trading away Jacob Voracek and a pick that eventually ended up becoming Sean Couturier. But when Carter arrived to the Jackets, many could tell he just did not want to be there, and signs started to show immediately as he refused to report to the team and didn't do so until Nash himself had to personally convince him. Carter then showed little enthusiasm at all, as shown in this interview, and he was reportedly very hard to work with and put in very little effort on the ice. And to put the cherry on top, Carter would request a trade less than a year after his arrival and got traded for a first-round pick and Jack Johnson. Basically, Columbus lost the Carter deal twice and then saw him go on to win 2 Stanley Cups in Los Angeles from 2012 to 2014. That's brutal. Once in LA, anytime he returned to Columbus, he would get rightfully booed.
Oh, Jesus. What is that?
And many Jackets fans still hate Carter to this day, although probably a little less than they did back then. When thinking of the most hated Canadiens player, many tend to forget Vladimir Malikov and how he turned the entire fan base against him with one injury. But the story is so bizarre that I had to talk about it. During the 99-2000 season, Malikov would miss significant time due to a knee injury he sustained that he was getting treatment for. Normally, if you sustained any injury that severe, you would be forced to stay home and recuperate, but that wasn't the case for Vladimir, as it was revealed that Malikov went on a skiing trip to a resort in Quebec with his family during that year's All-Star break, which enraged the fans and head coach Alain Vigneault, as he hadn't been playing with the team all season and it seemed as if he just didn't want to play. This obviously would then cause Malikov to be suspended as he was in breach of his contract, but when Malikov returned from his suspension, things got ugly fast. When returning to Montreal, Malikov would get swarmed with boos every time he touched the puck. Normally, most players would simply ignore it, but what Vladimir did caused even more rage from the front office. After obnoxiously waving gestures at the entire crowd, Malikov would then lash out at the fans in the media, causing management to finally reach their breaking point. At the end of that season, his contract was set to expire, so they traded Malikov to New Jersey weeks later, finally getting rid of him. The way he responded to such criticism further leads many to believe that what came out was true, and that he was perfectly healthy to return and play, but just chose not to, which will never gain the respect of anybody, especially the fans. We're going to end today's video talking about one of the most notorious scapegoats in Maple Leafs history. We already touched up on Larry Murphy and his criticism he received from fans, but this time we're going to talk about Mr. Game 7 himself, Jake Gardiner. When Jake was acquired alongside of Joffrey Lupul in 2011, it was widely considered to be one of the better deals in franchise history at the time. Lupul was a steady producer, and Gardiner provided some offense as well. As his career continued, Gardiner's offensive totals remained decent, but his overall defensive awareness was, at some times, absolutely atrocious. It wasn't that he messed up all the time, but when the game was on the line, more often than not, Gardiner would be on the losing end of the defensive battle, especially when it came down to the cursed Game 7. In 2013, he was on the ice for the overtime winner, and in 2019, his horrific giveaway eventually led to the game winner yet again for Boston, finishing all Game 7s in Toronto with a plus-minus of -10. Gardiner made mistakes like most players do, but when he made mistakes, he made them look extremely ugly, which drove Leafs fans completely nuts. In a game against the Colorado Avalanche, Gardiner struggled to defend Carl Soderberg, causing a very ugly goal against, which pushed fans to their breaking point, booing Gardiner, causing multiple talk shows to discuss whether the booing was truly deserved. He would eventually leave and sign in Carolina, where as of today, he's received very little ice time and hasn't produced like he once did. But hey, at least since Gardiner's departure, Toronto has finally been able to make it past the first round.
Move on Riley, who's dead tired, and he'll skate this into the open net for a 3-0 Columbus lead.
Tyler Toffoli to the empty net and in!
Now Nick Paul picks it up. He'll wind his way in. Scores! Nick Paul's done it again with a silencer.
It seems like, even without Jake, some things unfortunately never change.